So it might be good to, when the group starts, to review the question and review John's answer.
I was talking about the question Jyotika brought up when she was here a couple of weeks ago.
I think
just
that's
recent.
the same
Just recent.
I was saying.
No, I think no. The question that Jyotika was brought up was about with following Mark's discussion about doing something and having metta and goodness for oneself and so on. And she just started asking about Rahula and the idea of doing something, and then we had to finish the discussion. So we said that we would continue on this point.
Please.
But you can ask about anything, Betty.
Sure, let's do that. I know I missed last week also because we had a death in the family. One of our cousins. So, and you know, in Thailand, the services and ceremonies go on and on very long.
Yes, many ceremonies. Yeah, that's true.
So you'll be carrying on the discussion like Jyotika from the week before then. You'll be in sync.
That's very good what you say, doing something.
Because for some reason, the foundation doesn't put our Saturday discussions onto their line group or any other. I never get to see our Saturday discussions.
They're on the website, Betty.
Sorry?
They're on the foundation website. If you put Dhamma Home, YouTube.
Okay. All right.
And also on Dhamma Study Group, every time after the discussion, Alberto puts the link up.
Oh, okay. All right, good. That's good to know. Thanks. Because usually Warasak sends me all of them online, you know, and for some reason he doesn't, I have to remind him, oh, could you send me the Saturday one? Then he sends it.
Morning, Alan, Gabby, Tita.
Hi, Sarah.
Morning.
Alberto.
Morning, everyone. Morning.
Robert and Hang, and those we can't see.
Can you hear me?
Dika, yes, we can hear you clearly. Nina, would you like to start, or would you like Jyotika to start? She might be more comfortable if you start first and then we bring up her topic, but it's up to you.
I find that all the questions are useful, no matter what, about Susanna, who had so many theoretical things about the, I don't know, Matika or the six for the six senses, 6 buildings and so on. And then there was Jyotika about the heart beating and what is the heart. And Ajahn, the way Ajahn answers is so helpful for every one of us, because she gently brings people back to the basics, to Paramattha Dhammas. And then she mentions there are realities that can experience and realities that cannot experience. And we know, we have heard that before, but Ajahn said that we have to hear it again and again. And that's true, because we don't really understand yet. We can hear and listen to those words, but her way of answering is so useful for the basics, because the basics are never enough. We cannot hear enough. So that is for all of the questions of people that people have here. I find it's useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Yes, sometimes we think we've heard this and that, and we think we know it already, and we don't need to hear it again. But sometimes it's just some mana or aversion, or we think we're bored with that topic, or we don't need to hear it because it's clear. But actually, because the points are so subtle and deep, even the Aryan disciples listened again and again and again. It's never enough. There has to be the careful considering again and again. We may think, oh, it's clear to everyone here, no need to discuss this, or I've got it already. But actually, it's not like that at all.
Yeah, and then she starts to talk about feeling, and we know feeling. And I like to hear that again and again. It's never enough, really.
Seems that it's feeling right now, but she no thought about it at all until at moment of hearing again. Even so, just the word feeling, if feeling does not appear, usually there must be seeing upeka, the indifferent feeling. That's why it's not known, because it's indifferent, or even it is pleasure or very pleasant or very suffering, that it can be known because it's there different from now. The indifferent feeling is there, unknown. That's why talking about it, to know even any moment, not at will, but the understanding of the reality as they are conditioned to arise, and then it shows up and then gone instantly. So this is the moment of thinking about what is there. Where a moment before we talk about it, it's not attended yet. But now we talk about that which is there little by little to understand that actually it's there unknown, but it can be known when we talk about it. Like seeing right now, no thought about its reality as just that which sees arises just to see. That's why it has to be reminded and reminded to have confidence of what is there. It's the truth that can be directly experienced. Otherwise, how can there be the four Ariya Satya? Ariya Satya, it cannot be changed at all. It has to be as it is. It can be known when it is object of awareness directly. And when we talk about the term directly, it has so many degrees too. Right now, they say, is it directly at the moment of that which experiences the object, or just that is seeing not known yet until the development of right understanding begin to understand that it is different from other moments. A reality, one reality is different from the other, and then there can be a little more understanding of each one as that which experiences, in order to understand that no matter what is there in life, it's only a moment of experiencing an object, which can be that which cannot experience anything at all, the rupa that we call it, and the nama, the feeling, the memory, and life of this life. That's all in life, just to be heard again and again, considered again and again. And that is the function of the panya developed little by little, little by little, but it can be known. Different moments, different degrees by conditions. That's all. That is the way, the subtle way to let go the idea of self or thing. Patience is there. Patience to understand seeing as not self. Patient to understand hearing right now as yourself. Patient to understand feeling as not self or anything at all. And that is the absolute truth, ultimate truth. It cannot be changed. It's conditioned to just arise and then fall away instantly. And this is the truth of life that can be known in life, no matter what life, we don't know. But as long as there is hearing, considering, understanding little by little, It can be moment of it appears because of understanding is that enough to understand that. But in the beginning, it's not clear because it's only the first moments, many moments until it gets clearer because of understanding what is meant by being aware of a reality, not yet enough until it is sharper and sharper and point directly to that which is there, closer and closer and closer until the characteristic of only one realities appear to different level of understanding. That's all. Now it's just that, understanding that what is there now cannot be taken for anything when it's known as seeing, hearing as hearing, no one there at all. This is the confidence of the truth of this very moment. It shows up or not yet because it's covered up with or by ignorance and attachment. Instantly, that's why hearing about the words of its nature as it sees, it hears, it thinks, and so on, little by little, and no expectation, because as long as there is expectation, there is ignorance right then. It covers up instantly, anytime when it's there, wanting, wishing anything to arise to be the object. It has to be perfectly anatta, no one there at all, unexpectedly all the time, even right now. Unexpected thought, unexpected sound, unexpected thinking, but it's not known because not enough understanding to condition moment of attending to the characteristic which now appears little by little until it is direct understanding with direct awareness.
Last.
Excuse me, you want to say something?
No, you carry on, Nina. We continue with your comments and questions first.
No expectation. So we always expect a special answer. We have a question and then we are expecting something. But it means really, Ajahn speaks about the basics we have to consider again and again and no expectation. But that is a difficult thing, no expectation.
And if there is expecting to have no expectations, it's another expectation, more clinging
right.
again.
And
wishing.
it's also forgetting conditions.
Yes.
I like to add a little bit about conditions. Years ago, this was one of the questions I asked Ajahn, and I started this with saying, we say Nama is the reality which experiences, and Rupa is the reality which cannot experience anything at all. Mm-hmm. But what can be said about conditions? And the big surprise to me and a big help for me was the answer of Ajahn saying, these are the conditions. And after a while, I asked,
with conditions for its arising.
Oh, I see.
Can being without the ideas and that which impinges on it?
No, not at all. It's really not at all.
And conditions are the different realities.
Yeah.
The different namas and rupas are the conditions. The seeing now is a condition. The visible object that's seeing now is a condition. So they are conditions and conditioned, pachya and patyupana. So we have to distinguish between what are the conditions, the different realities, and what are conditioned by them, also different realities.
Yes, and the further question was, where are they? And Ajahn answered, they are here and now.
Is that true?
Yes, Ajahn, it's true.
And it's gone.
It's gone.
So true, but it's not known as it is yet. That's to have confidence of the truth. What is that? Just a moment when it appears. That's all. But even so, while it is appearing so many moments, in fact or in truth, at that very moment, just one moment, from moment to moment, arising and falling away, in what we take for a moment of seeing. And from learning about the process of one process, there can be the understanding about each different citta arising one after the other. They are not the same.
And another thing we can say about conditions is that they describe the relationship between different realities. So when we say that visible object is object condition for seeing consciousness, it's describing a relationship between those two realities. But the important point is that the condition comes to be known as and when the understanding of the different realities is developed. So it's not something to be known separate and apart from the understanding of realities. It's something that is known, that becomes known as the understanding of realities is further developed.
Last week, Mark was talking more about his comments about whether, his questions about whether there can be goodness and metta to oneself and so on. And we discussed how there has to be the considering again to understand that there really is no one at all. So no one here to have goodness to, and the agitation and relaxation he was talking about are just dhammas that arise and fall away. So actually there has to be more listening and considering carefully to understand there really are just dhammas. And last time Jyotika was here, you mentioned that you had some sympathy for Mark's point of view, and you were just bringing up the example of the Buddha's son, Rahula, and the question of goodness to oneself or doing something. Would you like to bring up your topic again so we can discuss in more detail this time?
I think it is still, am I on speaking? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I still, it belongs still to the question, if there is really nothing what you can do. And then I used the sentence from the Buddha, that he said to his son, if you develop metta, you will overwin, or you will overwin a dosa, this kind of thing. So, but there was also this thing in from doing something, son, do something. And it's always coming back to, if there is anything you can do. To me now, I think, is there nothing also with the conditioning? Because if the conditioning is in between, okay, the conditioning in between, but how is the conditioning coming to work? You know, is it by itself? Can we nothing do the behavior we have in life, or what we do are good things, or it works anyway, but you cannot choose to do something, I think, if I understand. Mostly is John coming back to me.
We could ask, what are the conditions for, if we take the sentence, you develop metta, as the Buddha, you quote him, Buddha is saying to Rahula, I'm not sure if that's the exact way it was said, but let's assume it was. We then need to ask what is meant by developing metta. What are the conditions for developing metta? Don't we?
Yeah.
Without understanding, can there be any development of any goodness at all? And this understanding, for example, understanding what metta is it conditioned, or is it I that can understand?
No, it's conditioned.
So
Conditioned,
if
but what we do, I'm still involved in the exercise or something. How can you call it? And to find a formulation that it is not making more I, but yeah.
and at this moment, can you plan or arrange or formulate or do anything? What is the you that can do all these things?
Yeah, the you is there, and it is not there.
It's a fantasy. There's no you to be found, right? Because at a moment of seeing, seeing sees. At a moment of hearing, hearing hears.
Yeah.
At a moment of thinking, thinking thinks. So the thinking thinks that there is I that can formulate a plan, that can arrange life, that can have metta at will.
Yeah.
But this is just thinking about the idea of I. In truth, no I to be found at all, as you've agreed many times, but still there is the clinging to an I that is lurking somewhere, that can formulate and can do and can have metta at will. And so when we say, if you develop metta, there'll be less dosa, this is a conventional way of saying that when there is understanding of the nature of metta, the goodness of metta, being kind and considerate to others, at those moments of kindness or considering the needs of others, there is no dosa at all at those moments, because there's no clinging to oneself, no aversion to what the others say or do, no minding of how we're treated at all, because the quality of metta is to be friendly or considerate of others. But it can't be known unless understanding understands the nature of that reality. It's a Dhamma, different from moments of clinging to oneself, moments of having aversion to what is heard or said. So it's only through the development of understanding of the nature of different realities that the metta will develop, goodness will develop naturally, not by trying to have it for oneself, trying to be a good person. So the Buddha was not encouraging anyone to have metta for oneself. He was talking about the value of metta and all wholesome qualities, considering what is kindness to others. Through understanding, metta will develop. There will be less dosa when someone speaks harshly or behaves badly, because less taking it for myself and my issue. They're just different dhammas that arise and fall away, all gone instantly. So whatever we read is actually about the nature of different dhammas that are anatta. So even when we use conventional language, if you develop or you should have kindness and understanding, actually we know all dhammas are anatta, however it's explained, whatever language is used, whatever the translation mentions, it doesn't matter at all. There are just different dhammas to be understood. Do you have any comments on that, Jyotika?
I am deliberating in myself if I shall go on with saying something.
Better to say it and discuss it, otherwise one just goes on thinking by oneself.
Yeah, but I don't know if I can say it in the right way. It was about, is exercise the right word for oefening? I think it's an exercise that you go to the shop, to the grocery shop, and that you in mind go there with metta in your mind for all living beings. And that it makes such a difference how you react when you have to stand in line, for example, and have to wait. And if you are aware of the knowing that you say, may you be well, go on, take your turn, I can wait, something, that you have a complete different experience yourself and the other person also. And this kind of thing, I don't know, it seems now that I have to give up all these things that is not necessary, is too much, or is not needy, is, I don't know. Can you do something with this?
I think it's not a matter of doing or not doing, of giving up or not giving up, because that's still the idea of, oh, perhaps I shouldn't do this, or perhaps I should do something else. But at any moment, no matter now or when crossing the road or when at the shop, there are different realities. There are moments of seeing, there are moments of hearing, moments of thinking, moments of metta, thinking of being patient, helping the others, moments of impatience or disturbance, moments of clinging to the idea of self and my metta with wrong understanding, different dhammas. And now we're not at the shop, we're here in the discussion. So what about now? It comes back to this moment. What is to be understood now? Because otherwise we think about what can be done in a certain situation, but what about at this moment? If there is understanding now that metta doesn't last at all, it just arises by conditions and then is gone instantly. At the moments of clinging, enjoying what is seen, what is heard, no metta. At moments of seeing or hearing, no metta. So whatever arises, it is by conditions and it doesn't belong to me or anyone else, and it's gone instantly. So there can be understanding here and now. Otherwise, we think of a long story about my metta while I'm in the shop. But what about understanding what is true at this very moment? Otherwise, there will always be the idea of I and the others, not understanding of Dhamma here and now. Like Gabby said, what is conditioned and what conditions is here and now at this very moment.
So it comes back then to Satipatthana, not to, and to let the metta thing go.
Actually, no one who can let anyone go, but when there is understanding, there is the understanding of what is true, what is real. So even if there's the idea of I wanting metta, even that thinking is conditioned, and there can be understanding. No one can stop certain ways of thinking, like the expectations Nina mentioned. No one can stop having expectations. But even at the moment of expecting or wishing not to have expectations, there can be understanding, because it's just different dharmas, not belonging to you or me or anyone. So we don't have to think about what I should do or what I shouldn't do or what I should let go, but just understand a little bit more about Dhamma now as conditioned and not belonging to anyone. No one can make metta arise by thinking I will have metta when I go to the shops, because who knows, a car may come out and there may be anger instantly. No one knows by conditions what will arise at each moment. So understanding means gradually there is less expectation, but without trying to have less expectation.
There's no degree of awareness about it, or no?
When it's thinking about oneself or thinking about having metta for oneself, at moments of clinging or wishing or expecting, no awareness at those moments, because awareness can only arise with kusala moments. So at moments of kindness, awareness is there, mindful to be kusala. Moments of generosity, awareness is there, but it's not known. And at moments of understanding, awareness is there, beginning to be aware of what is true and real at this moment. And only understanding that develops can understand what is awareness.
Understanding awareness. Is awareness only there with kusala?
Only when it's kusala, yes. Only when the chitta is sobana. So any moments of akusala.
We are not aware when we do akusala, when there is akusala.
No awareness at those moments. So at moments of clinging, at moments of expecting, at moments of ignorance, just not understanding, no awareness at all.
But there can, of course, be awareness in between the moments of akusala. So we don't have to think there can be awareness of kusala but not of akusala. Awareness, when it's developed, can have any reality as its object. But by conditions, there is no way of knowing what the object of the next moment of awareness, if and when it arises, will be. And we don't have to think that it would be good if it was awareness of X or Y or Z, because that is a subtle attempt to direct awareness to different objects, to certain objects. But just getting back to your original situation of going to the shop and doing so with the determination, if you like, the resolution for metta to be there during that event. This mind state that you're referring to is not an instance of metta arising naturally by conditions. it's Jyotika deciding that there should be metta while I'm doing the shopping, or it'd be good if there was metta while I'm doing the shopping. So there's no way of being sure that this is the same as metta, the wholesome mental state that arises by conditions. And from what we understand about the development and the accumulation of kusala, if the development of metta was so great that you could say, I'll have metta while I'm doing the shopping, then it would be arising a lot more naturally in daily life than it does at the present moment. But the fact that we have the tendency to get to be impatient when we have to wait our turn in the queues or something like that is an indication of the accumulations that are there, that have previously been developed. And it's these that are to be known, to be the object of awareness and understanding, among other things, among other realities. In other words, the development of the path as taught by the Buddha is not about necessarily having more metta. It's about having a better understanding of what is appearing at the present moment. And so we may think of having metta in certain situations where there tends to be impatience, but the actual reality of that situation is that the impatience is being suppressed artificially by perhaps another kind of akusala. The idea that, or just inducing a mental state that suppresses the familiar impatience, but it's substituting one kind of akusala for another, rather than the development of a wholesome mental state. Is that coming through?
Yeah, I got that, John. Thank you.
Could I ask an opposite question? It's all conditioned, but at this moment I have a problem with ants and they're killing trees in the garden and coming into the house. And I know it's Shanti thinking this, what should I do? But it's a bit the same. It's like an exercise. And well, maybe you can talk a bit about it as well. And it's on the negative side of the metta, but it's kind of the same, I guess, what you were saying, Jonathan, isn't it? Should I or should I not kill them by putting poison powder in the ground? On the other hand, I cannot stop this coming up. But there's realizing that it's a story and that I don't even know the outcome of the decision. Yeah, I was just curious what you say about this.
Well, this is another situation, and we tend to think of the situation rather than the reality. So in the case of laying poison, for example, although there may be the knowledge that some living beings are going to die because of it, it doesn't mean that there is an intention to kill. It's not the same as having the intention to take the life of a living being. there are many things, activities we undertake that will inevitably involve loss of life by some creatures or other, but without there being any actual intention to deprive any living being of its life.
John, if we lay poison because we know it will kill the ants that are hurting our garden, isn't the intention to kill them? That's why we're laying the poison, isn't it?
Well, that depends on the mind state at the moment. As I say, we can't necessarily talk about situations. We can only talk about what are the possible mental states that may be present at that time, but really it will depend on the individual. What is the mental state at the moment? So we've talked in the past about using flea powder on a dog, for example, or a pet, or giving a pet that has worms some powder that will dispel the worms and also that sort of thing. And the actual mental state involved will vary from one individual to another.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to grasp what could be the intention, though, if it's not to kill them, when you're putting down poison. I mean, obviously, each individual will have, some will not want to kill them particularly, but they're still, they'll have some regrets about it, but they're still trying to kill them, right? I assume.
Well, they're certainly trying to get rid of them in some way or other.
Maybe they're just trying to, I suppose they could be thinking, well, if I put them down, this poison down, maybe the ants will somehow know it's poison and keep away from my garden, and hopefully it won't kill them. I guess there could be that. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I can't think of I'm just trying to.
But again, Rob, what I'm highlighting is the difference between knowing that beings are going to die because of this action and having the intention to deprive a being of life. I think there's a difference if one thinks about it. Because when there's the intention to deprive a being of life, it's a more personal thing, if I can put it that way, than knowing that beings are going to be brought to the end of a lifespan.
Can I add to Chanty that I've just done a search on the internet and it says a cinnamon stick, coffee grinds, chili pepper, paprika, cloves, or dried peppermint leaves near openings will repel ants. So I think if you just do a search on the internet, you'll find a way to repel the ants without killing them. So I put that in the chat, but that's just one search in a few seconds. So there are lots of other ways to get rid of them without actually exterminating them, I think.
Yes, we have a kind of solution of bicarb and cloves, which we use in Sydney to keep cockroaches away or something. Usually it's a little bit more work, but usually one can find other solutions. But even so, it all comes back to the cheetah now. Like I remember when one of our Vietnamese friends asked Kun Su Chin about taking his dog to the doctor to have the fleas removed and so on. And she said, well, what is your intention? Your intention's to help the dog. So even though he knows the result will be that the fleas will be removed or killed, but what is his intention at that time? So it always comes back to the intention now.
I was also wondering, Sarah, it's not so much the outcome, but the process of clinging to akusala, because even if I don't kill the ants, there's akusala towards them. And lots of stories that trees are not human, they're not beings, and ants are, so I'm bad. It's more the getting into so much thinking, which I find interesting. I know it's conditions, but just seeing how there's a clinging, starting a process of clinging, a whole story, but even that I have no grip on.
So this is what is meant by living in the world of stories and situations. So while we think of the situation and the story, no understanding at all about Dhamma now, whatever the Dhamma is. And without understanding, like if there's no thinking of killing or harming now, that reality can't be known. And so it has to come back to this moment. Only Panya can know at the time what the thought is or what the intention is. Different moments, different realities.
But then it doesn't help to say, well, they're only Dhamma, Shanti, and Shanti is making it important. So that's Ditti and what else? Akusala and no understanding.
Shanti thinks she can arrange and plan it and avoid the killing, but it's not the understanding here and now.
No, and Shanti
and whatever happens will happen as it is by conditions, not think that it's going to all happen by my decisions and my choices. But that's just more thinking.
Also, aware that I don't even know the outcome of the decision, and but there's what do you say, worrying and fretting about this, and there's no outcome even if I try to tell myself, well, they're just dhammas. Even there's no what do you say, no choosing, no choice when there's going to be understanding and not.
Just like now, the thinking about this or that different situation, no choice at all. The thinking is by conditions. Like no one knew that a few moments ago we were going to be thinking about ants, but by conditions, thinking about the story of ants now, all by conditions. So if there's the understanding now, there is the understanding of at this or that time too. Just different realities, different moments of thinking, different moments of seeing and hearing by conditions. Kusala and akusala, moments of intending to kill, it's akusala. That moments of wishing the ants away, it's akusala. But moments of clinging to oneself now, it's akusala. Moments of understanding, even in between those thoughts of killing, it's kusala. So the understanding can be right now, anytime.
And like this, I found that I posted it on the list, reading a sutta. And I thought, oh, good, many points that Ananda was enumerating about the qualities of the Buddha, and the Buddha was asking him about this, and the Buddha agreed. And then number 21, suddenly mind grasping onto it, no, this cannot be right, this cannot be true. And just like that, there's no control at all at which moment mind is going to be aversive or accepting and confused. Yeah, that's what the topic is all about, isn't it?
None of those confusions or accepting or ideas belong to me at all, and all gone. Jan, would you like to add anything more on any of these topics that friends have been bringing up?
What is the most precious moment in life or in samsara?
Understanding.
Understanding. But while we think about the method or the way to do this and that, that thinking has conditioned and it has a reason already, and take it for I think, or this is my way or my point. and so on. But what is that very moment? Because even akusala, reality is that can be known as it's not me, it's not mine, it's just a reality. And who knows what would condition just that very moment, at that very moment when it's there, and or no matter what. But what is that idea of and or idea of I? Not the moment of understanding the truth of what is there as it is, in order to have no akusala anymore, as soon as it has completely eradicated at level of arahata. See, that's why the most precious is the understanding of that moment. A reality is there, no matter it's kusala or akusala. But when there's not enough seeing the most precious reality as is the understanding only, there is the idea of self trying to be good, trying to be this or that, and thought that Buddha told us about how to do in such and such situation. But in truth, no one can do anything at all. It's there already. Even seeing an end is conditioned already. And at that moment, the idea, the accumulation to think this way and that way is there, not understanding actually what is there. So how it's possible never to think about the truth of not self, of a reality right then. Just think about oneself with the, how can I be good and how can I have metta? Always I lurk somewhere all the time from this situation or that situation from time to time. But in truth, no understanding of the truth, and understanding that only panya, which understand the truth, will let go the akusala little by little, because of the understanding of the truth that actually it's not me or it's not I thinking or doing, but it's the conditioned reality from moment to moment in life, conditioned such idea, such thought, and such act at every moment. Otherwise, there's no way to have less ignorance and attachment to the idea of being good or do good. No understanding of what is it. But the truth is that if there's not enough understanding of that, how can it let go, clinging even just to get rid of and or anything at all? It's there all the time. Inside, see, do that, but inside it's because of not wanting it to be there. See, always akusala, not understanding the truth. And do we always see end in a day or only sometime? And what about the other moment, not an end, but very pleasant object? See, does anyone would like to have less? Try not to have it. See, it's so dangerous when there is ignorance and attachment very deeply about the idea of self. So that's why only understanding the truth little by little until one attains the level of Sotapanna, no killing anymore. So who knows what would be there? If it's not ant, if it's other thing, snake, or what? Robber, or what? It depends on conditions. See? If one doesn't kill an ant, what about the other thing? The other living being? So very dangerous, so close. Would you like to have that situation to confront with that, or just whatever one does is only by conditions? Understanding that very moment, little by little, the most precious moment is there. Understanding the truth, which appears then, but no understanding of its nature as it is, as no one and nothing at all. The question about situation must not be ended at all from moment to moment, different situation and so on. And the answer is not just from what Buddha taught in that text of this text, but to understand that actually what is there. The most precious moment is to understand the truth of that very moment. and this moment. Always forgot what is there now. So close. Nothing is as close as that which is there now. Unknown. Can it be studied to understand its nature? As it's just that it has its own characteristic, but it's not always there. It arises and gone. And that can be directly experienced because it's so true, but not when there's no understanding of what it is at all. Even we talk about seeing, it sees not directly on the seeing at this moment yet. So close, but not known. And attachment takes one away from this moment to other objects. And this is life. A moment ago, it's gone. Everything gone. What is there now? Just hearing about the truth as to reminded, just as a reminder to understand the truth of it. At moment of seeing an end, can there be a right understanding of that which appears? If not, it cannot understand what appears now either. Or when there's no understanding of what appears now, it cannot understand the moment when seeing ends of elephant. No matter what appears, it can be kusala or akusala by conditions. Otherwise, how can there be the understanding of the nature of that as akusala? We just talk about whether it is akusala. I will not do it. I would like to develop kusala as much as metta and so on. But what is it? It's I. And what did Buddha taught? What did Buddha say about that? What is there? Otherwise, who will understand that which is there now? If he didn't teach about it, to understand that it's only a conditioned moment, a reality. And it's not there again because it has fallen away only once in samsara, in life. Never to return. So what is there now is what he said about it. The truth is there from time to time, from moment to moment, unknown. That's why he taught about the truth of that which is now appearing, rather than people think that he taught about how to do this or how to do that at such a situation to understand the truth. That's his teachings. Otherwise, who will teach about the truth of what is there now? What is there is conditioned already, no matter it is kusala or akusala. Depends on condition. Without panya, how can there be less akusya? And how can there be parami? The most important thing. Reality is so deep, so subtle, it does not appear as it is. It's covered up with ignorance and attachment as soon as it appears. So only right understanding, seeing the precious of understanding that it is the best reality in or among all kinds of realities, which arises and falls away. The best of all that is conditioned to arise is understanding the truth. And many people just think about awareness and satipatthana. It's not that degree yet, because it depends on understanding. If we talk about satipatthana without any understanding, how can that be moment of sati? Patthana, different from sati, at moment of understanding intellectually about what is there, is so true, but it does not appear as it is. So we talk about the truth of it in order that panya can let go ignorance and attachment until it understands that with awareness directly, more and more direct, and thinking about the levels of what is meant by direct understanding and direct awareness. Even right now, we talk about direct awareness and direct understanding. It's not there yet. And it depends on whether there is awareness at any level, understanding that it's so deep and it's there and it can be known. And then when it's just hardness appearing, before talking about it, no attention to its characteristic at all. But when there is moment of hardness, it can condition moment of understanding that if one has enough developing of understanding of intellectual understanding to condition moment of begin to understand it, that is true. That is the moment of what appears as it is as hardness only. See, only hardness, when hardness is there, experience, and sound is there when sound appears, only that. And if this is not reminded more and more, how can it condition moment of what is there? Just that, see. No matter one tell the others, be aware of it, be aware of it, be aware of it. It's impossible because not enough understanding of what awareness is by conditions. Otherwise, without hearing, considering, understanding that what is there now, it's the very close, the closest reality, because it's here and now. But even so, it's so deep that it does not appear as it is until Buddha taught about a reality one by one to be started, to have more confidence of the characteristic of that as no thing at all, little by little, until time comes by condition. Reality appears as the unnothingness of whatever is there, in order to have more confidence of only conditioned reality. It cannot be as a table, as a chair, as now it is. How come? A little more understanding of the truth of what is there in life from moment to moment to be known, but it's not known because ignorance cannot understand the truth, and attachment take it for something when there is nimitta, now, from birth, no understanding, living in the world of nimitta, of things around, and die. See, no understanding of what is that which is born and die at all. The truth is that in every moment in life, but it's not known. That's why the enlightenment of the Buddha received, attained, enlightened to understand the absolute truth as it is now and now and now and now and now. When we talk about other things, it cannot understand what is there as not so. I and situation and so on. But in truth, it's thinking about that which appears as usual with ignorance and attachment. When there is the word of truth like attachment, how can there be the understanding when it's there? Because at any moment of not understanding the nature of that, it is ignorance. And when it appears as something, attachment is there. The whole life live in the world of people and things and try to be good, but not understanding anything. That's why without understanding, there cannot be parami, patience, to understand that which appears, but not as it is. Learn about just one characteristic of that which is there, as whether it's that which is seen, only that. It cannot be taken for anything. When right understanding understand that which is seen as only that which is seen, but not at will. All depends on conditions, starting, beginning from understanding the truth until it's so firm and firm confidence of the truth. That is the way that it let go the idea of thing or that which appears as something, little by little. It takes not just few moments, but life and life, years and years to let go. The understanding of that which take it for something wrongly, not as it is, because it has to be right understanding only, which can understand the truth of that which appears. When there's no word about it, how can there be the understanding of it that it's not that which sees? No one at all. In truth, from moment to moment, they are all different realities, conditioned reality by many conditions that Buddha taught about. All conditions or whatever arises now and appearing now. So much to learn about the truth, because it's the truth at any time, in any moment. Unexpected words or sound. All gone.
Leanne, are you following now? Because you said you had a question on Monday you'd like to bring up now if there's an opportunity about feelings. Are you able to bring up your question now? If it's convenient.
Yeah, sorry, I came late as well. There's a bit of an incident with my dog when we walked him just then. He went off leash. Had a bit of an issue. But anyway, my question was about Sanya. Was it Sanya? No, Vedana.
I think you were asking about the conditions for different Vedana, different feelings.
Yeah, feeling, correct. I read in the survey, and I tried to allocate what I was referring to, and basically when I read different cheetahs, let me see, different cheetahs are accompanied by specific feelings depending on the type of chitta. And then when I read that, I feel unsure, because it makes sense, but also I feel like it also depends on the objects as well, right? Whether it's a pleasant object or unpleasant object, that would affect the different type of feeling as well, not just depending on the type of chitta. So I just want a clarification, that's all.
So this is actually coming back to what we were discussing about different conditions, conditioning different realities in different ways. So even different Vedana, each one is conditioned in different ways. So for example, Ajahn was mentioning earlier when we were talking about feelings, like at the moment of seeing, it's indifferent feeling at that moment that arises with seeing, no matter whether it's a pleasant object or unpleasant object experienced. It must be indifferent feeling with the seeing, but it's not known, because usually the very pleasant feelings or unpleasant feelings are known. But what about the indifferent feeling at the moment of seeing? And that feeling is not conditioned by the object, but by past karma. So the seeing and the feeling are conditioned by past karma, but also the object of seeing has to have impinged on the eye sense to condition that moment of seeing, that moment of feeling, the other mental factors that arise with it. So it's conditioned in different ways, but it cannot be any feeling except indifferent feeling at that moment. Whereas at the moment of touching, which is also vipaka citta, and the feeling is also vipaka citta conditioned by karma, but the feeling has to be pleasant or unpleasant because of the kind of impingement, the contacting of the tangible object at that moment, which is stronger. So it's only if it's a desirable object experience, pleasant feeling arises with that moment of bodily experience. If it's an undesirable object, then unpleasant feeling arises. So we cannot just say in general, oh, all feelings are conditioned in this way or that way. We can say all feelings are conditioned by the other cetasikas that arise with them and the citta, and they're all conditioned by experiencing an object, but each feeling is different, conditioned in different ways by different paccaya. So at a moment of attachment, we know the feeling can be pleasant or indifferent because of the nature of the clinging to the desirable object at that moment. At a moment of aversion, the feeling is always unpleasant because there is not liking the object. So we have to learn about different feelings arising at different moments by different conditions, or anatta, or not in anyone's control. No one chooses to have unpleasant feeling. Everyone would like to have pleasant feeling, but each Vedana arises by its conditions, feels in a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral way, and falls away instantly. And so how about now? What is the feeling now?
Indifferent.
And usually not know. Yes. So usually if there's ignorance, if there's not knowing, indifferent feeling at that moment of pleasant feeling, it may be pleasant feeling of attachment, or it may be pleasant feeling with kindness or understanding. So one cannot just judge by the feeling what kind of citta it is.
Yep.
But it's here and now, the feeling now conditioned to be just the way it is at this moment.
Yep.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else would like to add more. Jan or Nina or anyone.
Sarah, I have a question about the feeling, Vedana.
Hi, Han.
Hello, yes. Because I read in the Sutta and Paticca Samuppada, I said that Phassa condition Vedana. So as my understanding is by Sahajata condition, but it's not really like this because the understanding is quite limited. So can you elaborate more about this?
So by Sahajata Pachya, all the Chaitasikas condition each other. So Passa conditions Vedana, Vedana conditions Passa. It just means they arise together and condition each other. Vedana cannot arise without Passa, and Passa cannot arise without Vedana. But in addition, the Passa conditions Vedana by nutriment condition, Ahara Pachya. It's one of the 3 mental nutriments. So Passa is a condition for Vedana, and the other Chaitasikas it arises it with by way of being nutriment. If there is no contacting the object, nothing can arise. The Chitta and the other Chaitasikas cannot arise in this way by way of nutriment. So I think when it mentions Passa conditioning Vedana, is not just referring to Sahajata Pachya, which is true, the association of those Chittas co-arising together, but also by way of nutriment. But perhaps Ajahn would like to add more on in these points.
Thank you, Sarah. It's clearer.
As much as one can know, when there is something appear, it means that there is pressure. And when it condition feeling like painful feeling, we know that it contacts or pressure with the heat and cold through the at the body sense, right? Otherwise, it cannot condition such painful feeling when it's too hot or too cold. That's why whatever can be known, Buddha thought about at that very moment when there is painful feeling, it's conditioned by the object, which is prasa, contacted, like too hot or too cold. And when the object is so pleasant, it's because prasa had contacted that. So citta arises, but citta doesn't show up. But the feeling, the pleasant feeling is there. So he thought about that which can be known in daily life, what condition was. Without that prasa, how can there be pleasant feeling or painful feeling? But for indifferent feeling, when there's more understanding of how feeling is such and such, painful or very pleasant, according to prasa, which contact the object, that citta experiences that. See, just understand the way Dhamma is, that no one can control the way it is. How come such present feeling without seeing the present object? And prasa must be there too. And when it's painful feeling, as it appears in the day, without prasa of such object, can there be the painful feeling? That can be known when it's there, and it can condition moment of understanding, of being mindful, of not forgetting about the truth of it right then. That's all, little by little. It's not just try to find out what about the other object or what about the other Jatasikas and so on. But what is that in a day can be reminder of the truth. What feeling is there now, see? When you say it's too cold, see what kind of feeling? Pleasant or unpleasant, it can be known. But in a day when it's not like that, the other thing is more, what you say, significant, or it can be known. prominent.
What is felt or what is experienced really depends on what phassa contacts. So whether it's the heat or the cold at that moment depends right now on what phassa contacts to be experienced. So this is, I think, what is meant by nutriment condition for the feeling.
All depends on right understanding, whether it's enough to be aware of that which appears at any time in daily life by conditions. No selection, all are the same, only dhammas arising and falling away. It's so common, that's all. What is known is so natural by conditions. When time comes, it can be moment of being aware of sound, or moment which is aware of hardness, a moment of that which is aware of whatever is there by conditions. And it depends on understanding. No intention just to be aware and try to do something, but it's the understanding with direct awareness. In the beginning, it's not as clear, but it is the beginning to understand just one characteristic right then, as it is, different from other moments. That's why understanding the characteristic of sati, not just use the term sati or mahasatipatthana, it doesn't mean anything if there's no understanding of anatta-ness. Selection one object is not sati at all. It is I who try to have only that object as the object of thinking or awareness or whatever one thinks. But in truth, all dhammas are anatta. It has its proper conditions. Without right understanding of the truth, how can there be the direct awareness of whatever is there as usual, hardness, seeing, hearing, and so on? Everything is there. It depends on condition, whether it is the object of ignorance or it's the object of understanding. With what level of awareness or sati and panya together. And so usually, as the moment of experiencing an object through the 6 doorways, one at a time, what citta follows as that experiences. To know the truth, to understand the reality, is there already at the moment of after seeing, then what? It's there now. See, they're seeing, and then what? That's why daily life is a test of understanding. And only Panya can understand the truth. Panya is so truthful to the truth. Satya Parami. And Satya Parami is now at this very moment too. But it's only the word. When it's not directly understand reality right there now. And this is the understanding of the absolute truth. It has to develop little by little. From knowing intellectually, many citas arise before seeing, and after seeing, what are they? So rapidly. And the parami of the truth can be now too. Otherwise, when will be the parami?
Ajahn, you say it must be developed from moment to moment. So we hear this and we know at the same time no self who can do anything. So people may wonder how to develop from moment to moment.
So we can stop just one word or one phrase at a time. For example, no one can develop, right? No one can develop parami. No one. That this moment of understanding, little bit of no one. When we say no one, it means that that must be the reality, different reality. And for parami, it's the path leading to realization of the truth of this very moment. So it has to be wholesome. And panya is the chief. Otherwise, without panya, how can there be the understanding of the truth right now as it is? Whether after seeing there is ignorance, asava, avijjasava, unknown. That's why beginning to see how much ignorance from life to life, from moment to moment, in years and years ago. And this is the right understanding, which let go. The wish or wish thinking, just want to have more of the understanding of that which appears as no self at all. See, in the past, if that it understand the truth, what is there is there. So even just a moment of understanding is so very, very precious, because without one moment of understanding, there cannot be stronger and stronger understanding. That's why that is so patient to develop, to understand the truth of that which is now so real. It's not just at once, in few days, but the truth is that at moment of seeing what is there, understanding the truth of that which experiences, closer to the nature of that which sees only. See, it takes so long, but it doesn't matter, because the accumulation of ignorance is so long, longer than anyone can expect at all. Because now, after seeing, there is ignorance. So the understanding of the truth that it is that which can be known because it appears, it's so true. And the truth of it is that it only that which is seen, that's all. So in life, how many moments in a day of seeing and everything unknown? That's why beginning to be patient and satya and confidence of the truth. And this is a parami. Without parami, it's impossible to begin to let go the idea of something, because thinking and hearing, considering again and again, it's only that which appears, that's all. In truth, that's all, never to arise again, that which has appeared, gone, instantly.
But
just
like
understanding until it's so firm, confidence, more and more, little by little.
But like when we sing that Dhamma, Anatta and all that, but after that, wishing to have more understanding and all that, and like you were saying, patient to understand Dhamma. After that, I wish to have patience. So that is, Lopa is everywhere, like blocking us in every, come like a, like very secretly.
And Panya knows the truth.
And it's the idea that I have or don't have patience. I don't have patience, so I would like to have more. So the idea of I is there all the time too.
Yes. And I think patience to listen again and again, never be tired to hear again the same truth.
And when time comes, very surprisingly, the truth is there, depending on conditions, whether how much understanding is there, little by little. Because it's so true, it can be known by Panya, which let go ignorance and attachment, little by little, unknowingly. That's why it's so anatta, even right now, how much it has been developed, little by little, unknown, until the condition is there. Condition, the moment of realizing the truth at level of conditions of understanding.
Can we say, Tanajan, that this concept I is a prey, P-R-E-Y, a toy, a victim of reality?
Yes, when it's not true, when it's false, when it's not real. So what is real? Concept is concept, because no understanding of any truth, of any reality at all. There is only concept in life, people and things and so on. But in fact, in truth, no one, no people, no thing, because there are different realities. That Buddha had enlightened the truth. How many realities are there? No matter in what world, this world or other world, under the water, or there must be reality. No one can change the reality, the truth of the reality of a reality at all. For example, the eye, see, the special rupa, it has its special quality, different from hardness, that it can be that which the object impinges on it only, that the object is only visible object. See, sound cannot impinge on it. It cannot condition hearing, because it's just that quality, very special, to condition seeing, conditioned by karma. That's why someone has eye base and someone does not have the eye sense or eye base at all. By conditions, we learn to understand a characteristic, and later there can be the understanding of the condition for that particular one, like hearing, seeing, thinking. But they all have the same quality, that which experience an object. No matter it's the seeing, sees, experience, visible object, hearing, hears mean experience an object. That's why beginning to understand the characteristic of the reality which arises and experience an object. It is conditioned to be only that. So it arises just to see, or it is conditioned to arise to hear from time to time, to think, and to on and on. Without that which experiences an object, there cannot be any living at all. No matter in what plane, an ant or an elephant, a cat, a dog, a chicken, or are in commons, no one knows them. And it can condition metta towards the other, for the other, because it understands the truth. As one doesn't like the unpleasant thing, why do the wrong thing to that person? See, it conditions, right understanding condition the truth, not just not knowing about what metta is and try to have it. Impossible. But when there is the understanding, that's why people think that be metta to oneself, impossible. But to understand the truth of oneself, that no one likes to be in the unpleasant situation and so on. That's why it conditions compassion for everyone, the same in the world, no matter who.
There are no such thing as metta to your oneself. Metta is thinking of others, but self is with all kusala, which are selfish. So when doing a good to others, that's selfless. All kusala is selfless.
What condition metta is the understanding of the nature of the truth of actually, as one does not like unpleasant situation, no one likes it. Should we do that to the other? Right understanding, understand realities as no self. But when we take these realities, Dhamma and Rupa, for the self, clinging is Titi. But when there is the understanding, even we use the word I, there is the understanding, the meaning of it, not the other realities. That's all. Someone thinks that it's so wrong to use the word I, but in fact, in truth, it's not wrong, because understanding of the truth that actually there are no I, no self, but there are different realities by conditions to arise from moment to moment together, to be taken for this or that, like seeing a moment cannot be anything at all. But when there are many, many moments, it conditions the form and shape to be known as this and that is the Panyati from the nimitta, the sign of the shape and form, see? And the idea, everything is conditioned. Each one is not anything or anyone. It cannot be taken for permanent I or anything at all, because it arises and falls away in split seconds. And what can be known is only the nimitta of that which arises and falls away. Each word is so true, and right understanding begin to understand. No thinking about the words of Tipatthana or this or that at all, because the understanding is the understanding. And it does not arise alone. It has to arise with other mental factors too, and Satipatthana and so on. Begin to understand the truth of each one, not the word. Because we can use the word Satipatthana, but it's not Satipatthana because of no understanding. Going to the meditation center, is it Sati, which takes one there? Impossible. Because Sati is the wholesome cetasika. And when it is the understanding, it arises with panya, or right understanding. And sometimes, and usually, when there's no panya, sati arises with any moment of wholesome moment. That's all. Learn to understand reality as it is. This is the way, the stage of intellectual understanding. Without the intellectual understanding, it's impossible to try to know this and that, try to concentrate, focus on something, or choose the object that I would like to understand this, and or this object can lead to the realization of the truth. No understanding of this moment. So how can there be the understanding of what is there at the moment if there's no accumulation of understanding of the truth of what is there now, little by little? There must be the understanding of the different stages of Panya too, to be truthful. What is Sati? If there's not enough understanding of the truth of Sati, that is the I who try to select the object and think that I develop Sati, but that is not Sati. That's why we don't have to use any word when it's not there and not known yet, but understanding what is meant by reality and by the Dhamma, the reality which experiences an object right now, and the reality which is there does not experience anything, but not in word, not thinking about that when it's there, and the understanding develop little by little. Not forgetful of the truth of that it can be known only when it's there, appearing. When it's gone, how can there be the understanding of the truth of it? Because it's not there. And this is the letting go, the way to letting go, the very deep accumulation of ignorance and attachment and all akusala realities. Naturally, understanding what is there, and life goes on by conditions, and it depends on Panya when it's conditioned to begin to think about that which has heard, about hardness or seeing or hearing, little by little. It cannot jump to Satipatthana at all without the understanding of daily life.
So Hachi asked how to have more patience, but Ajahn says again and again, understanding develops little by little. So each time we hear this, it's a very good reminder.
Because you see that when it's not natural, what makes it unnatural? See, when there's no hearing about the truth, life goes on as usual by condition. So when there is the understanding, it understands the normal, usual life as before. But the understanding begin to understanding that what we heard are what are there in life from moment to moment, to be known little by little. And that is the way to let go the very, very subtle attachment and ignorance of that which is there all the time before hearing the truth of it. So natural. When it's not natural, it cannot be the Satipatthana or the way to realize the truth, enlighten the realities as a self. And there is great patience too. And only Panya can lead to that moment of accumulating right understanding gradually, naturally. It's not by any attachment with the idea of self. Even it's there, but it does not always arise. That's why we learn from akusala citta. When sati or wholesome moments are there, no ignorance and no attachment. They cannot arise together. That's the way it develops, to have more powerful or stronger enough to develop more on and on patiently. And it has to be subject to be truthful to the truth, because now seeing is so true, that which is seen is so true, but no understanding yet, hearing again and again and again in line. Panya is so truthful. How much understanding? Or it knows that if there is no understanding of that which appears, it's not yet the way or the Panya enough to let go the idea of self. That is hearing carefully and have more confidence of the truth that actually there is no one. Why? Because that which is seen is only that which is seen. And the seeing is only seeing. So in life, where's I? No I at all. And Panya begins to understand the truth in life, little by little. Otherwise, the other kind of doing, like practicing and vipassana and so on, cannot let go. To be so truthful to the truth of that which appears, whether it begins to be acquainted with that as only that which is there when it's seen, but when it's not seen, it's not there anymore in samsara. And the way the life goes on by condition is so natural, and the understanding lying down there to develop little by little. Underneath what appears, it seems like there is not enough understanding, but it begins to develop unknowingly. So don't try to know it, because it cannot be known the way it is, developing secretly, unknowingly, at moment of understanding, from moment to moment. Even one moment of understanding is so very, very valuable, very, very precious, because without just one moment, there cannot be a strong understanding or keen understanding and very skillful understanding. That's why just understand the word the Buddha taught, not just the word or the meaning, but it's the truth. For example, the word awareness, see, without understanding, sati does not forget to be good, to do this or that, giving away or helping the other, see, but no understanding of the truth. But when there is the understanding, sati is there too. Not forget to understand the precious moment of sati and panya, which begin to understand what can be known directly to let go the idea of self is that which is now appears. And understanding how much accumulation of ignorance and attachment in life years and years ago, that it covers up the truth so thick. That's why right understanding, like a light, or just that which open up the truth little by little of each of what is said in life, until more confidence of the truth. So natural, because it is by right understanding of anatta, firmer and firmer, and life goes on. Life goes on as usual, but panya is there, underlying, from moment to moment of understanding. It's not lost. but it depends on conditions to arise with energetica by conditions, by being anatta, uncontrollable.
Even when we are doing the idea of atta coming, actually that also are anatta, uncontrollable.
Panya knows.
Yeah.
And Panya let go.
Yes. It's like what you Buddha said, Chira Kala Bhavana, long time development, like understanding moment, drop of water and how ocean are formed. So it's a lot more to learn.
Tanajan, I would like to know how to understand that phrase you just said. Panya, Panya, let's go, or something like that. How do we understand that? Does that mean at the moment there is an understanding, there won't be any attachment? Is that how we understand it?
When there are moments of panya, no unwholesome reality can arise at all. That's why kusala citta is different from akusala citta. Whenever there is akusala, there must be ignorance at the very moment too, depending on atacetasika, whether it is with attachment or aversion differently. But when there is kusala, it is because of sati. It's aware of kusala. That's why at that moment it prevents the other realities such as akusala. There cannot be akusala cetasika with any kusala citta at all. But depending on whether there is panya with that sati or not, that's why there can be kusala citta without panya and kusala citta with panya. And panya is the understanding of the truth, even at moment of hearing the meaning of the word about it. Like lopa, see, everyone understands what lopa is by word, but now at moment of have delicious food or the present things, no thought about lopa, because at moment of lopa, there's no kusala to understand that as lopa. Only when panya is there, it begins to understand what is there in words. It is kusala, we can say. At that moment, it's akusala. But the characteristic of akusala reality does not appear as the object. But when there is attachment so much, the food is very delicious. There must be a moment of pleasant feelings or no understanding at all, because not enough condition for right understanding to understand that. That's why all depends on conditions. But when there is more understanding, stage by stage, letter by letter, who knows, at any moment, by conditions accumulated to condition such moment of understanding that object, or being aware of that object, or just think about the truth of it, depending on conditions. So natural. Like Sariputta, he didn't have any idea that he would become Sotapanna at all. even while he met Asachi, he didn't know beforehand how much understanding has been accumulated enough to understand at moment of hearing the word of truth about whatever is there at that very moment. And right understanding has to be like that, unexpectedly, very, very natural, and it is not in anyone's control at all. By conditions only, it arises to be different stages. That's why even at moment of Pativeda, Vipassana Jnana, there are many degrees, stage by stage.
I don't know
So
whether
just understand, that's all. Leave it to the way it is, the accumulation and the development of Panya naturally. To see the change of life sometimes, not as before, little by little.
Thank you, Ajahn. I think Sarah wanted to say something, right?
No, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. I wasn't sure if I understood Ajahn, like everything Ajahn said, but I just want to see whether I understand it correctly. So, I mean, there's not really letting go here, but it's about the more understanding, the less a kusala moments. Is that correct to sum up that way?
About just one reality or one word at a time to have more understanding of it. Little by little, any word, there can be the understanding of the truth of it.
I'm still asking about letting go, Ajahn.
Yeah, letting go what? See, and what letting go? Just one word, letting go. Letting go what? And what letting go?
So from what I understand, letting go meaning less a kusala dhamma. And Ajahn asked, what letting go? Then from what I heard is panya. There's no one letting go, but when there's a panya, then that's the function of panya.
Often in the
please.
I was just going to say, often in the context you mention when Ajahn refers to panya letting go, it's particularly letting go of the wrong understanding. For example, the idea of I can do something, or I should have more metta, or what can I do now, or when I'm looking at the ants at another time. So at the moment of panya, it understands what is true right now, lets go of the idea of I and something to be done right now.
Or
Sorry,
letting
Ajahn.
go, thinking akusala is self. So the aim is not less akusala, but to understand akusala also as conditioned reality.
That's why from the very beginning, there has to be the beginning of letting go of the idea of self, the idea of something, and only panya can perform that role of letting go.
Yep.
Because otherwise there's always the idea of I can do, I can be aware, I can develop metta. So from the beginning, there has to be the understanding that there are just dhammas, seeing as a dhamma now, hearing as a dhamma, that they're conditioned realities. So panya understands no one to be found, no one to do anything at all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's clear. Thank you so much. Because most of the time when we talk about letting go in our, our language, Vietnamese language, we're thinking of letting go of attachment of, you know, all the kusala moments, you know. That's why I was thinking
it can still be the idea of I letting go. So there has to be the letting go of the idea that I can do anything at all. I can have metta. I can let go of those. So it is the understanding of Dhamma as Dhamma.
It's not the matter of doing, but letting go, not something to work. But that understand Dhamma, it's performing the letting go function. It's not you have to do something or find a way to letting go.
So can we say letting go ignorance? We think about letting go of some unwholesome realities, but what about letting go ignorance? Otherwise, one might not realize that how much ignorant one is, how much ignorant of whatever is then appearing from moment to moment all day. And what about beginning to understand the truth? Because that is opposite of ignorance. And when there's the ignorance of what is there, it conditions many other unwholesome realities, unwholesome moments. Want to have metta, is that akusala? Not understanding what reality is, and what is I, and what is metta. At this moment of talking about just one word, it is letting go ignorance of that word or that reality. For example, we use the word ignorance. What does it mean? Because many people think that they do not have any ignorance at all. They know. And they think they understand the word of the Buddha and the path and so on. But what is ignorance in truth? Not understanding the truth, that is ignorance. And what is the truth of this moment? Ignorance or understanding? So I think that it's time now.
Yes, so we can continue next time.
Thank you very much, Ajahn. Swadikap, Ajahn. Swadikap. Thank you, everybody.
รับท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ